Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. This is the third and unfortunately final part of our best bits of business advice. Enjoy.
I can always remember the advice of cash is king. And that was something that, was drummed in at university and all of those good times. And at the time you thought, this is one of those cliche statements that comes out. I guess never has a truer word been spoken in these times. So looking after the business through cash management has become critical. And I think I would take that as one of the best pieces of advice as we come through this time.
Best bit of business advice I've been given is keep experimenting until you get the result you want. So if you try and fail, you haven't failed, you just got a different result. So I think is it Colonel Sanders went to 900 restaurants before he got his first order for any chicken. Dyson did 1,200 prototypes before he got a vacuum cleaner that worked properly. Edison made an awful lot of bad light bulbs before he made one work with a light. So too many people give up. They'll try one thing and say, it didn't work, I'm going to do something else. It's not that. Keep going. Keep going, because the answer's there.
Oh, I've had a lot. Now, my ex-chairman, good friend of mine, is Sir Ken Alissa, who's ex-IBM sales, old school. He's also the Lord Lieutenant of Greater London. And he always said to me, it's about selling. And when I got into business, I thought, we're clever, we've got business plans, we raised some money, we've got there's a huge market opportunity, but never stop selling. So my advice is always sell, and then go and sell some more. Because sales, at the end of the day, can make all sorts of issues in your business seem much less painful.
Oh, crikey. Well, I don't know if it was advice that I was given, but it's certainly the thing that I've always made decisions based on, which I've always made a decision based on where I think I can add the most value. So throughout my career, all the decisions I've made have never been about the financial benefits that come with it. I've always believed that they will kind of take care of themselves at some point. If you do a great job and work with great people, that part of it will kind of take care of itself. I've always made decisions based on where I genuinely think I can make the biggest impact. And working, what's hugely important to me is the people I work with and for. And I think you look at the decisions that I've made and the choices that I've made. People thought it was really strange when I left nearly 25 years ago, when I left that small independent restaurant and wine bar in Cheshire to go and work for a big brash red and white striped American brand. But that gave me, huge opportunities. People genuinely couldn't believe when I left Costa to go and work for Brewers Fayre. People thought I was absolutely mad, even though it was, still part of Whitbread. People thought, why would you leave a business that was growing, that was really innovative, that was, on the high street in Costa to work in a underinvested pub restaurant brand. But, I believed in the leadership and the plan and the people. And again, when I went to work for Morrison's, again, people thought, why would you move out of hospitality? But I learned, a huge amount, some great learnings, great people, great leadership, challenging, innovative, agile, just a great place to work. So that's probably would be my advice would be make decisions based on where you think you can make the biggest contribution, the biggest impact, rather than just chase the pound note all the time.
Wow, that is an interesting question. Lots of good and lots of bad, as you can probably imagine, but probably a relatively recent thing. I think we all get caught up in trying to be all things to all men. A phrase more than perhaps advice, but it was know what you do well and do it often, or know what we sell well and sell a lot of it. And that was a relatively recent piece of advice that stuck with me in the last few years. Stop trying to be all things to all men. Realise what you do well and do a lot of that.
Best bit of business advice I've ever been given. I'm a great believer in values, and certainly probably the best bit of advice I've been given was by the person that recruited me when I worked for Audi. And the chap was very values driven, and he genuinely believed that if you're going to have a set of values, you have absolutely got to live by them. There are so many times you get people who define values for a team or an organization, or put down their personal values, but don't actually really genuinely, they're not under the skin, they're not in your DNA. And certainly his advice was, if you're going to have a set of values, when they get challenged, when times get tough, that really proves out whether those values are true. And I think at the moment, we're all going through tough times. And I think it really unveils or reveals what people's true values are. And that to me is important. So trust is one of my key values. So that's really important to me. And when you get put under pressure, trust is a key player for me.
Oh, crikey. I didn't see that one coming.
That's the point.
yeah, that's good. Best bit of business advice, I think, just get started. I think that's something I've learned, especially since being co-founder of Score. You can spend ages and ages procrastinating about planning perfectly, creating a perfect plan, figuring out all the scenarios, when in fact you've missed the point. Actually get started, try something, see if it works, and evolve from that.
No, I like that. And you tend to learn a lot of stuff by getting started that you probably never thought about in 6 months of thinking and planning.
Indeed, and be prepared to fail, because there's probably going to be more that doesn't work than does work in the totality of things. So just crack on.
Good. And Craig, you've had a bit more time to think about it, so we're expecting a good one.
I was so hoping you were going to ask me the same question.
I am. No, same question.
Brilliant. The one that immediately popped into my mind as soon as I heard the question was a few years ago. I worked with a CIO from a major retailer, household brand certainly in the UK, and I think in other countries too. And he made this point. He said, "Look, I'm a very, very busy person. If you want to get my attention and get me to make a decision, you need to tell me what the answer is in one sentence, and then back it up with other information." And essentially what he was saying there was, whether you're in a sales environment or trying to get an idea across to people, it's dumb it right down to the very, very simplest term. And actually keeping things simple is harder to do than you think it is. But if you can keep that in mind, how do you keep the message as simple as possible? I think that's something that we strive to do, as difficult as it can be.
This may not be where you're going. I think the best piece of business advice, which is probably also the best piece of personal advice, is it's not about you. Not to take things too personally. That what often looks like a calamity will likely pass. So it's a little bit of focus on what you can control, and don't get too wrapped up on things that are outside of your control or probably very much of the moment. It's a little bit harder to take that advice in a pandemic, which just keeps going on and on. I think it works better when you have a bad meeting or a presentation or something doesn't go the way you want to. You can just kind of move on from that. But
I'd have two, given it's a retail podcast, buy one, get one free. The first one would be keep calm and carry on. The second one would be really making sure that you prioritize on the true scale and impact. I think when you're in any retail business, it's very easy to get distracted on a multitude of things that are all hit your inbox, but you always need to get after the things that are going to have that big sort of scale and impact, and the sort of 80-20 Pareto, because it's very easy to lose that focus and you can be a busy fool. So always get after the 2 or 3 things that are going to have the biggest commercial and personal benefit.
When I was at Boots, Alec Gurley, he's now at Walgreens, kind of chief operating officer at Walgreens, but he was just kind of the director of Boots at the time, said to me that something along the lines of, you can go like a football team can have good seasons and bad seasons. People in their careers can have good seasons and bad seasons. Companies can have good seasons and bad seasons. And if you're going through a bad season, it doesn't mean that next season can't be a great season.
It's the famous Steve Jobs quote of strategy is choosing what not to do. And I think that's been really applicable to us over the last 3 or 4 years.
May I have two, Simon?
Yeah, of course you can.
There you go. That's the first one. Ask if you don't ask, sometimes you don't get. And it's that simple action of just asking for something, asking for help, asking for resource. The worst scenario that can happen is someone says no, so you're still in the same position. So always ask a question. And then the other one is be adaptable. So be adaptable personally, be adaptable as a business, because as we've just seen, change is happening every single day and it's accelerating. Technology is accelerating that. Smartphones are accelerating that. Be an advocate of change. Be adaptable because it's inevitable. There's no point resisting it because it's happening, like I say, faster and faster and faster. So ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask the question. And adaptability or being an advocate of change.
The best bit of business advice. Well, I've always been in the business of providing solutions. And I think the best advice I've ever got is to see yourself as someone who's solving customers' problems. I think that, we work for a solution provider, a vendor. And I think if you see yourself as having a thing that you need to convince people that they need, it really is the wrong approach. I think the approach is, what are the problems that a business, a potential customer or a customer is actually facing, and just solve their problems. And I really believe in that. I see myself as a problem solver. And obviously with that mindset, I love working for companies that have great solutions, because it means you can have a proper problem-solving conversation and then sometime later sit back and look at the fantastic solution that's been put in place. So view yourself problem solver, I think, is what comes to mind.